The USS Liberty dropped out of hyperspace with a flash of blue light. Captain Jake Murphy gripped his command chair as the ship's systems came back online. What he saw on the main screen made his blood run cold. Space around the planet Kalanos was filled with burning wreckage. Pieces of alien ships drifted in the darkness, still glowing from recent explosions. In the distance, Murphy could see strange black ships that looked like giant bugs attacking what remained of the defending fleet. "My God," whispered Navigator Lisa Carter. "What happened here?" "Those must be the Vraxx ships," said Lieutenant Amy Brooks from the weapons station. She was counting the enemy vessels on her screen. "I count 22 hostiles, Captain. They're attacking 2 remaining defender ships." Murphy watched as green beams of energy shot from the bug-like ships toward 2 elegant vessels that seemed to be made of crystal and silver. The defender ships were beautiful, but they were clearly losing the fight. Their return fire barely scratched the thick black hulls of the attacking vessels. "Captain," called Communications Officer Dan Price urgently. "I'm getting a direct communication from one of the defender ships. They're trying to talk to us." "Put it through," Murphy ordered. The main screen flickered and changed. A face appeared that was unlike anything Murphy had ever seen. It was clearly intelligent, with large golden eyes and blue scales that seemed to shift color. When the creature spoke, the computer translated its words into English. "Unknown vessel," the alien said. "I am Commander Zethara of the Zorathian Defense Fleet. If you are here to help us, please know that we are grateful. If you are here to join our enemies, please know that we have already lost everything." Murphy stepped forward. "Commander Zethara, this is Captain Jake Murphy of the Earth vessel USS Liberty. We received your distress call and came to help." The alien's eyes went wide with surprise. "Earth? We have never heard of your people before. Why would you risk your lives for strangers?" "Because it's the right thing to do," Murphy replied simply. "Can you tell us about your enemies?" "The Vraxx came without warning," Zethara explained quickly. "They demand our quantum crystals and will kill anyone who refuses to surrender. Their ships are very strong and their weapons can cut through our shields easily." Murphy nodded and turned to his crew. "Amy, what can you tell me about those enemy ships?" Amy studied her sensor readings. "They appear to be biomechanical, sir. Part living tissue, part machine. Their hulls are incredibly thick, almost like armor. But, Captain, their design suggests they're built to fight energy weapons, not kinetic projectiles." "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" Murphy asked with a slight smile. "Our railguns might be very effective against them," Amy replied, matching his smile. Murphy turned back to the screen. "Commander Zethara, we're going to engage the enemy. I suggest you pull your remaining ships back to a safe distance." "Captain Murphy," Zethara said with concern, "there are too many of them. Your single ship cannot fight so many enemies." "You might be surprised," Murphy replied. "Amy, target the closest enemy vessel. Load armor-piercing rounds." "Aye, sir. Target locked. Fire." The USS Liberty's main railgun fired with a thunderous roar that echoed through the ship's hull. A solid tungsten projectile shot through space at incredible speed and struck the nearest Vraxx vessel. The result was spectacular. The kinetic round punched through the biomechanical hull like it was made of paper. The Vraxx ship exploded from the inside as the projectile tore through its vital systems. Pieces of black armor and glowing green, fluid scattered in all directions. The remaining Vraxx ships immediately turned toward the Liberty, abandoning their attack on the Zorathian vessels. Green plasma beams lanced out toward the human ship, but Chief Engineer Rick Stone had already diverted extra power to the shields. Shields holding at 80%, reported Lisa from her station. Their weapons are powerful, but not as bad as I expected, Murphy said. Amy, continue firing. Spread the targets. The Liberty's weapons systems came alive. Railgun rounds hammered into the Vraxx ships while missile tubes launched nuclear-tipped torpedoes. The human weapons were designed to fight other human ships, with thick armor and strong shields. Against the biomechanical Vraxx vessels, they were devastatingly effective. One after another, the enemy ships exploded under the Liberty's assault. The Vraxx had never encountered kinetic weapons before. Their bio-armor could absorb and deflect energy beams, but solid projectiles moving at incredible speeds simply punched right through. "Captain," Dan called out, "I'm receiving a message from the Vraxx ships. They're demanding to know who we are and why we're interfering." "Tell them we're humans from Earth," Murphy replied, "and we don't like bullies." On the Zorathian command ship, Commander Zethara watched in amazement as the single human vessel destroyed enemy ship after enemy ship. Her people had never seen such aggressive tactics or such powerful weapons. The humans fought like they had no fear of death. "Commander," said her officer Veltar, "the human ship is incredibly effective. They have destroyed 8 enemy vessels already." "How are they doing this?" Zethara wondered aloud. "Their ship is smaller than ours, but their weapons are far more powerful." She opened a communication channel to the Liberty. "Captain Murphy, your weapons are amazing. How can we help you?" Murphy appeared on her screen, and she could see that he was completely focused on the battle. Behind him, his crew worked with smooth efficiency, calling out status reports and target information. "Commander, can your ships provide cover fire?" Murphy asked. "We're drawing all their attention, but a few shots from different angles would help a lot." "Of course," Zethara replied. She turned to her crew. "All remaining ships, coordinate with the human vessel. Follow their lead." The 2 surviving Zorathian ships moved to support the Liberty. Their energy weapons weren't very effective against the Vraxx armor, but they provided distraction and forced the enemy to split their attention. More importantly, they began to learn human tactics by watching how the Liberty moved and fought. The battle continued for 30 minutes. When it was over, 16 Vraxx ships had been destroyed, and 6 had retreated into hyperspace. The Liberty had taken some damage, but nothing serious. The Zorathian ships were battered but still functional. "Captain Murphy," Zethara said over the communication channel, "we owe you our lives. Without your help, my people would have been destroyed." Murphy wiped sweat from his forehead. "The fight's not over yet, Commander. Those 6 ships that escaped are probably going to bring back reinforcements. We need to prepare for a bigger battle." "But how can we prepare?" Zethara asked. "You have seen how ineffective our weapons are against the Vraxx." "Maybe individually," Murphy said, "but together we might have a chance. We need to learn from each other. Your people know things about technology that we've never seen, and we know things about fighting that might help you." Zethara felt hope, rising in her chest for the first time since the attack began. These humans were not only brave fighters, but they were also willing to share their knowledge with strangers. "What do you propose, Captain?" "First, let's get our ships to safety and treat our wounded," Murphy said. "Then we need to talk about combining our technologies. The Vraxx will be back, and when they come, they'll bring everything they have." Zethara looked at her surviving crews and then at the human ship that had saved them. She realized that this meeting between their species might be the beginning of something important. The Zorathians had always believed in peace, but now they were learning that sometimes peace had to be defended with strength. "Captain Murphy," she said formally, The Zorathian people accept your offer of alliance. We will fight together. Murphy smiled. Welcome to the war, Commander. Let's make sure we win it. The blue sun of Kalanos was setting when the first Vraxx ships appeared in the sky. Commander Zethara stood on the observation deck of her command vessel, watching the peaceful crystal cities below. The Zorathian people were going about their evening routines, completely unaware that death was coming from the stars. Zethara's scales shifted from their usual calm blue to a worried purple. Her people had lived in peace for over 300 years. They had no enemies, no wars, no need for weapons beyond simple defense systems. The Zorathians believed that all life was precious, and that conflicts could be solved through talking and understanding. Commander, called her young officer Veltar from the communication station. We are receiving strange signals from the outer sensor array. Multiple ships approaching at high speed. Zethara moved quickly to the main display screen. What she saw made her blood run cold. Dozens of dark shapes were moving toward their world. The ships looked like giant insects with thick black shells and glowing red spots along their sides. They were nothing like any vessel the Zorathians had ever seen. Send a message to all incoming ships, Zethara ordered. Tell them they are welcome to visit Kalanos in peace. Ask them what they need. Veltar worked at his controls for several minutes. Then he looked up with confusion on his face. Commander, they are not responding to our welcome message. Instead, they are sending us something else. The main screen flickered and changed. A terrifying face appeared. Something that looked like a cross between a spider and a snake. Its eyes were burning red, and when it spoke, its voice was like metal scraping against stone. I am war leader Gexith of the Vraxx Empire, the creature said. Your world contains quantum crystals that we require. Your people will surrender all crystals and submit to Vraxx rule. Any resistance will result in total destruction. The message ended abruptly. Zethara stared at the screen in shock. In all her years as a commander, she had never heard such cruel words. The Zorathians had always believed that other intelligent species would be peaceful like them. Commander, Veltar whispered, what do we do? Before Zethara could answer, alarms began ringing throughout the ship. Red lights flashed as another officer shouted from the weapons station. Commander, the alien ships are firing on our outer defense platforms. On the screen, Zethara watched in horror as bright green beams of energy struck their peaceful defense. Stations. The platforms, which were meant only to stop asteroids and small debris, exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The Vraxx ships moved forward like hungry beasts, destroying everything in their path. All defense ships, prepare for battle, Zethara commanded, though her heart was heavy. The Zorathians had only 12 ships, and they were designed for exploration and peaceful missions, not war. The Zorathian ships moved to protect their world, but they were no match for the Vraxx war vessels. The enemy ships fired streams of green plasma that burned through Zorathian shields like they were made of paper. When the Zorathians tried to fight back with their simple energy weapons, the shots barely scratched the thick black hulls of the Vraxx ships. Within an hour, 8 of the 12 Zorathian vessels were destroyed. Zethara watched her brave crews die, knowing there was nothing she could do to save them. The Vraxx ships were too strong, too fast, and too many. Commander, Veltar said, his voice shaking with fear. The enemy is moving toward the planet's surface. They are beginning to attack the cities. Zethara looked down at her beautiful world. She could see explosions in the crystal cities as the Vraxx ships fired their terrible weapons. Her people were running in panic, trying to find shelter from an enemy they had never imagined could exist. "Send a message to all remaining ships," she ordered. "Fall back to the inner system. We must protect as many people as we can." The 4 surviving Zorathian ships retreated, but the Vraxx followed them like hunters chasing wounded prey. More of Zethara's people died as the enemy weapons found their targets. Soon, only 2 Zorathian ships remained. Zethara knew they had, only minutes before the Vraxx would finish them off. Her people on the planet below were being killed, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. The peaceful Zorathian way of life was ending, and she felt helpless to prevent it. "Veltar," she said quietly, "prepare the emergency communication array. Send a message on all frequencies in every language we know." "What should the message say, Commander?" Zethara looked at the burning cities on her world one last time. "Tell anyone who can hear us that the Zorathian people are dying. Tell them that we tried to live in peace, but evil has found us. Tell them that if any good people exist in the galaxy, please help us." Veltar's fingers moved over his controls. "Message sent, Commander. Broadcasting on all frequencies." "Will anyone hear us?" asked another officer. "I do not know," Zethara replied. "But we must hope. Hope is all we have left." The Vraxx ships were closing in for the final attack, their weapons charged with deadly green light, ready to finish off the last defenders of Kalanos. Zethara closed her eyes and thought of her people, hoping that somewhere in the vast galaxy, someone with a good heart might hear their call for help. Far away in the deep darkness of space, Captain Jake Murphy was drinking coffee on the bridge of the USS Liberty. The human battleship was on patrol near the outer rim, watching for pirates and other threats to Earth's trade routes. It was supposed to be a quiet mission, but Murphy had learned that space was never truly quiet. Lieutenant Amy Brooks was at the weapons station, running system checks on their railguns and missiles. Chief Engineer Rick Stone was in the engine room, making sure their fusion reactors were running smoothly. Navigator Lisa Carter was plotting their next patrol route when something unexpected happened. "Captain," called Communications Officer Dan Price from his station, "I'm picking up a strange signal. It's a distress call, but not from any human ship." Murphy put down his coffee and walked over to Dan's station. "Can you clean it up?" "Working on it, sir." Dan's fingers moved quickly over his controls. Slowly, a voice became clear through the static. It was speaking in a language none of them had ever heard, but the computer was translating it in real time. The message was heartbreaking. An entire alien race was begging for help as their world was being destroyed. Murphy listened to the translated words and felt something stir in his chest. The same feeling that had made him join the Earth Defense Force years ago. "Sir," Amy said quietly, "what do we do?" Murphy looked at his crew, then at the star charts, showing their position. They were alone, far from any backup, and they had no idea what kind of enemy they might be facing. But the distress call continued to play, and Murphy could hear the desperation in the alien voice. "Set course for the signal source," he ordered. "Maximum speed." "Sir," Lisa said with concern, "we don't know what we're heading into." "No," Murphy replied, "but we know what we're made of." War leader Gexeth slammed his clawed fist onto the command table of his flagship, the Devourer. The biomechanical surface rippled under the impact, sending waves of bioluminescent anger through the ship's living walls. "Explain to me," he hissed, at the cowering officer before him how 6 of my ships were destroyed by a single unknown vessel. Sub-Commander Vraxx trembled as he delivered his report. War Leader, the unknown ship used kinetic weapons, solid projectiles that our bio-armor could not absorb. Our ships were not designed to defend against such primitive attacks. Primitive? Gexith's red eyes blazed with fury. If these weapons destroyed my ships, they are not primitive. They are dangerous. He turned to face the massive viewing screen that showed deep space. What do we know about these newcomers? They call themselves humans, from a world called Earth, Vraxx replied. Intelligence suggests they are a young species, but very aggressive. They fight without fear and show no mercy to enemies. Gexith's mandibles clicked with interest. Aggressive? Good. That means they will be useful slaves once we break them. He turned back to his subordinate. How many ships do we need to crush both the humans and the remaining Zorathians? The Zorathians only have 2 ships left, Vraxx calculated, but the human ship is very dangerous. I recommend sending at least 50 vessels, including 3 command ships. 50? Gex laughed, a sound like breaking glass. You want me to send 50 ships to destroy one enemy vessel? The other war leaders would mock me for such cowardice. But war leader, their weapons. Their weapons work because my ships were not expecting them, Gexith interrupted. This time, we will be ready. We will adapt our bio-armor to resist kinetic impacts. We will overwhelm them with numbers, and we will make examples of both species. Gexith moved to his command throne, a living chair that connected directly to his nervous system. Through it, he could control every aspect of his massive fleet. Send word to all war leaders in this sector. I want 100 ships assembled within 2 cycles. We will show these humans what happens when inferior species interfere with the Vraxx Empire. Meanwhile, in the asteroid field near Kalanos, Captain Murphy was meeting with Commander Zethara aboard the Zorathian command ship. The inside of the alien vessel amazed him. Instead of metal corridors, everything seemed to be made of living crystal that glowed with soft light. The walls pulsed gently, as if the ship itself was breathing. Your technology is incredible, Murphy said as Zethara led him to the meeting room. These walls, are they alive? In a way, yes, Zethara replied. We grow our ships rather than build them. The crystal matrix is semi-organic. It can repair itself and adapt to new situations. But as you saw in the battle, it is not very strong against violent attacks. They entered a large chamber where Murphy's senior officers were already waiting. Lieutenant Amy Brooks was examining a Zorathian energy weapon with fascination, while Chief Engineer Rick Stone was deep in conversation with a Zorathian technician about quantum field generators. Captain, Amy called out when she saw Murphy enter, you need to see this. Their energy weapons might be weak against Vraxx armor, but the targeting systems are amazing. They can lock onto quantum signatures and track ships through hyperspace. Rick, Stone looked up from his conversation. And Captain, their shield technology is incredible. They can bend space around their ships to deflect attacks. If we could combine that with our kinetic weapons, it would make us nearly unstoppable, Murphy finished. He turned to Zethara. Commander, are your people willing to share this technology? Zethara's scales shifted to a warm blue color. Captain Murphy, your people risked everything to save strangers. Of course we will share our knowledge, but we must hurry. My sensors indicate that the Vraxx are gathering a large fleet. How large? Murphy asked. Over 100 ships, Zethara replied gravely. More than we have ever seen in one place. They are bringing enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. Murphy felt his stomach drop. The Liberty was a powerful ship, but not powerful enough to fight 100 enemies at once. When will they arrive? 3 days, perhaps 4 if we are lucky. Murphy looked around the room at both human and Zorathian faces. Everyone understood the situation. They were vastly outnumbered and facing an enemy that now knew what to expect from them. "All right," Murphy said firmly. "We have 3 days to become the most dangerous force this galaxy has ever seen. Rick, I want you working with their engineers on shield integration. Amy, figure out how to combine their targeting systems with our weapons. Lisa, work with their navigators on battle formations." "What about communications?" asked Dan Price. "If we're going to fight together, we need to be able to talk to each other instantly." Zethara gestured to one of her officers. "Kathani is our best communication specialist. She has already been studying your language patterns." The young Zorathian stepped forward, her scales a nervous yellow color. "I believe I can create a translation matrix that will allow instant communication between our ships," she said in slightly accented English. "Excellent," Murphy said. "What about the planet below? Are there still people down there?" Zethara's scales darkened with sadness. "Yes, millions of my people are hiding in underground shelters. The Vraxx have stopped attacking the surface for now, but when they return in force, they'll finish what they started," Murphy completed. "We can't let that happen. We need to evacuation plan for your people, and we need defensive positions that can hurt the enemy." Over the next several hours, humans and Zorathians worked together with an urgency born of desperation. The cultural differences were enormous, but both species shared a desire to protect innocent life. The Zorathians were amazed by human determination and ingenuity. When faced with a problem, humans didn't just accept it. They found ways around it, through it, or over it. The Zorathians had always solved problems through careful thought and discussion, but humans seemed to solve them through pure, stubborn will. The humans were equally impressed by Zorathian technology and wisdom. The aliens had developed sciences that humanity had never imagined. Their understanding of quantum mechanics and energy manipulation was centuries ahead of human knowledge. Dr. Kate Morgan, the Liberty's medical officer, was particularly fascinated by Zorathian biology. "Their cellular structure is completely different from ours," she explained to Murphy during a brief break. "They can actually absorb and store energy from their environment. No wonder their technology is so advanced." "Can we use that somehow?" Murphy asked. "Maybe. If we could adapt their energy absorption techniques to our ship's systems, we might be able to power our weapons longer and faster." Meanwhile, Rick Stone was making breakthrough after breakthrough with the Zorathian engineers. "Captain," he reported excitedly, "we've figured out how to integrate their quantum shields with our armor plating. The combination should be able to deflect energy weapons and absorb kinetic impacts." "How long to install the modifications?" Murphy asked. "Working around the clock with their help?" 2 days, maybe less. Amy Brooks had similar good news. Their targeting computers can predict enemy movements by analyzing quantum fluctuations. Combined with our railguns, we should be able to hit targets at much longer ranges with perfect accuracy. As the work continued, both species began to understand each other better. The Zorathians learned that humans were not just violent, they were protective. They fought not because they enjoyed war, but because they refused to let evil triumph over good. The humans learned that Zorathians were not weak, they were wise. Their peaceful nature came from strength, not fear. They had simply never encountered A threat that couldn't be reasoned with. Captain Murphy, Zethara said as they stood together watching the joint work cruise. I must ask you something. Why are your people willing to die for mine? We had never met before today. Murphy thought for a moment before answering. Commander, humans have a saying, evil triumphs when good people do nothing. Your people are good. The Vraxx are evil. That makes the choice easy. But you could leave, Zethara pointed out. You could take your ship and return to your own space. You would be safe. Would we? Murphy asked. If the Vraxx conquer your people, how long before they come looking for more worlds to destroy? How long before they find Earth? He shook his head. No, Commander. This fight was always going to happen. Better to fight it here, with allies, than to wait for the enemy to choose the time and place. Zethara's scales shifted to a deep, respectful purple. Your people are truly remarkable, Captain. I hope someday we can visit your Earth and meet more humans. You will, Murphy promised. But first, we have to survive the next few days. As if summoned by his words, Dan Price's voice echoed through the ship's communication system. Captain Murphy, Commander Zethara, please report to the bridge immediately. We have incoming signals from multiple hyperspace sources. Murphy and Zethara rushed to the bridge, where they found the crew staring at the main display in grim silence. Dots of light were appearing at the edge of the sensor range, dozens of them, growing larger by the minute. How many? Murphy asked. Quietly. 112 ships confirmed, Amy reported. More still arriving. Murphy looked at the display, then at his crew, then at Zethara. The odds. The USS Liberty screamed through space toward the massive Vraxx flagship, with the two Zorathian ships flying beside it in perfect formation. Around them, the enemy fleet was in chaos as asteroids continued to smash into their vessels. All weapons. Target the Devourer's weapon systems, Captain Murphy ordered. We need to get close enough to board that ship. Sir, are you serious about boarding? Lieutenant Amy Brooks asked, her fingers dancing over the weapons controls. That ship is huge. It probably has thousands of crew members. Sometimes the best way to kill a snake is to cut off its head, Murphy replied grimly. If we can take out their war leader, the rest of the fleet might retreat. On the Zorathian command ship, Commander Zethara was coordinating with her remaining vessel. Veltar, prepare boarding teams. We will follow the humans into the enemy flagship. Commander, Veltar said with concern, our people are not warriors. We have no experience with ship-to-ship combat. Then we will learn quickly, Zethara replied. The humans have shown us that sometimes peace must be defended with strength. The three allied ships raced toward the Devourer, dodging plasma beams and biomissiles that filled the space around them. The Vraxx flagship was enormous, easily a kilometer long and bristling with weapons. Its biomechanical hull pulsed with veins of green energy. Concentrate fire on their portside weapon clusters, Murphy commanded. We need to create a blind spot. The Liberty's railguns hammered the flagship's weapons systems, while the Zorathian ships used their enhanced energy beams to cut through bioarmor. The combined assault was devastating. Weapons turrets exploded in brilliant flashes as the hybrid technology proved its effectiveness. War leader Gexeth felt his flagship shudder under the attacks. How are such small ships causing so much damage? He demanded. Their weapons have been modified, his tactical officer reported. They are using some kind of hybrid technology we have never seen before. No matter, Gexeth snarled. Even if they damage my ship, they cannot board us. Our biosecurity systems will kill any Intruders, but Gexeth had never dealt with humans before. As the Liberty closed to point-blank range, Captain Murphy activated the ship's docking system. Not to dock peacefully, but to punch through the enemy hull like a spear. "Brace for impact!" Murphy shouted. The Liberty's reinforced nose section smashed through the Devourer's bioarmor, creating a massive breach in the flagship's hull. Emergency force fields activated to prevent atmosphere loss, but they couldn't stop the boarding parties that poured through the gap. Murphy led the first wave of human Marines, followed by Chief Engineer Rick Stone and a team of technicians. They had studied Vraxx ship layouts during their preparation and knew exactly where to go. "Dr. Morgan, establish a field medical station here," Murphy ordered as they secured the breach point. "Lisa, take a team and secure our escape route. Amy, you're with me. We're going for the command center." The inside of the Vraxx ship was like nothing they had ever seen. The corridors were made of the same biomechanical material as the hull, pulsing with organic life. Strange tendrils hung from the ceiling, and the air was thick with an alien smell. "This place gives me the creeps," Amy muttered as they advanced through the living corridors. Behind them, Zorathian boarding teams led by Commander Zethara were making their own way into the ship. The peaceful aliens had quickly adapted to the violent situation, using their natural agility to move through the strange environment. "The command center should be 3 levels up," Zethara reported over the communication system. "But Captain Murphy, these bio-corridors are confusing. The ship seems to be changing its internal layout." "The ship is alive," Murphy realized. "It's trying to trap us. Everyone stay together and mark your paths. Don't trust the corridors to stay the same." As they fought their way deeper into the flagship, the boarding teams encountered Vraxx crew members. The aliens were terrifying. Up close, part insect, part reptile, with razor-sharp claws and mandibles that dripped with venom. But they had never faced humans in close combat before. Human Marines fought with a ferocity that shocked the Vraxx. When their energy weapons ran low, they switched to kinetic firearms. When those ran out, they used knives and even their bare hands. The Vraxx had conquered many species, but none had ever fought back with such desperate courage. "These humans are insane," one Vraxx warrior screamed as a human Marine tackled him, refusing to go down even after taking multiple claw strikes. Meanwhile, Rick Stone and his technical team had found the ship's power center. "Captain," he reported over the radio, I found their main power grid. It's completely biological. If I can disrupt it, do it," Murphy ordered. "But be careful. We don't know what kind of defenses they have." Rick and his team began working on the alien power systems while the fighting continued around them. The Zorathians proved to be surprisingly effective in close combat, using their natural speed and agility to outmaneuver the larger Vraxx warriors. On the bridge of the Devourer, war leader Gexeth was beginning to panic. Reports were coming in from all over his ship about human and Zorathian intruders who fought like nothing his people had ever encountered. "Send all available warriors to repel the borders," he commanded. "I want these intruders killed immediately." But even as he gave the order, the lights in the command center began to flicker. Deep in the ship's power core, Rick Stone had found the main bio-neural control system. "This is incredible," he whispered to his team. "The whole ship is controlled by a biological brain. It's like a living computer." He looked at the pulsing mass of neural tissue. "If I can disrupt this..." He placed a small explosive charge against the biocomputer. The explosion wouldn't destroy the ship, but it would knock out its central nervous system. "Fire in the hole!" Rick shouted. The explosion echoed through the ship's corridors. Immediately, the biomechanical systems began to fail. Lights went out, gravity fluctuated, and the living walls stopped their constant movement. "What happened?" Gexeth demanded as his command center plunged into emergency lighting. "The neural core has been damaged," his technical officer reported. "The ship's biosystems are failing." At that moment, Captain Murphy and his team burst onto the bridge. The human captain's uniform was torn and bloody, but his eyes were filled with determination. "War Leader Gexth," Murphy said, raising his weapon. "I'm Captain Jake Murphy of the Earth vessel Liberty. You are under arrest for crimes against peaceful species." Gexeth looked at this small alien who dared to challenge him. "You think you can defeat the Vraxx Empire, human? We have conquered 1,000 worlds." "Maybe," Murphy replied, "but you haven't conquered this one." The final battle erupted on the bridge as Vraxx warriors clashed with human marines and Zorathian fighters. Amy Brooks fought side by side with Commander Zethara, their different fighting styles complementing each other perfectly. The tide turned when Dr. Kate Morgan's voice echoed through the ship's communication system. "Captain, I found something important. The Vraxx use biochemical control systems for their entire fleet. If we can access the command codes from this ship, we can shut down their whole fleet," Murphy finished, understanding immediately, working. Together, human and Zorathian technicians broke into the Devourer's fleet control systems. Within minutes, they had access to the biochemical commands that controlled every Vraxx ship in the system. "Do it," Murphy ordered. The signal went out instantly. Across the Vraxx fleet, ships began shutting down as their biomechanical systems received shutdown commands. Weapons powered down, engines failed, and life support systems switched to minimum levels. War Leader Gexth watched in horror as his mighty fleet was disabled by the very technology he had trusted to make it invincible. "Impossible," he whispered. "Your empire ends here," Commander Zethara said, standing beside Captain Murphy. "The galaxy will know that the Vraxx can be defeated. Within hours, the battle was over." The few Vraxx ships that hadn't been disabled retreated into hyperspace, carrying news of their defeat back to the Empire. The Devourer and most of its fleet were captured intact. On the surface of Kalanos, millions of Zorathians emerged from their shelters to see human and Zorathian ships flying together in the sky above. The crystal cities began to glow with celebration as news of the victory spread. "Captain Murphy," Zethara said as they stood on the observation deck of the Liberty, watching the celebration below, "how can we ever repay what you have done for us?" Murphy smiled and put his hand on her shoulder. "Commander, this is just the beginning. The Vraxx will be back someday, and when they come, they'll bring everything they have, but they'll find something they don't expect." "What is that?" "They'll find humans and Zorathians fighting side by side," Murphy said, "and that's something the galaxy has never seen before." As the two ships flew together through the space around Kalanos, crew members from both species worked together to repair battle damage and tend to the wounded. They had become more than allies. They had become friends. The war against the Vraxx Empire was far from over, but it had begun with a victory that would echo across the galaxy. Word would spread that a peaceful species and an aggressive one had joined forces to defeat evil. Other worlds would hear the story and take hope. The combined human-Zorathian fleet hid deep within the asteroid field surrounding Kalanos. 3 ships against 112 seemed like a hopeless fight. But Captain Murphy had learned long ago that numbers weren't everything in space combat. "Report on the modifications," Murphy called out as he entered the Liberty's engine room. The space was buzzing with activity as human and Zorathian technicians worked side by side to install the new hybrid systems. Chief Engineer Rick Stone looked up from a glowing crystal array that had been grafted into the ship's power grid. "The quantum shield generators are online and tested, Captain. We can now deflect energy weapons and absorb kinetic impacts for short periods." "How short?" Murphy asked. "Maybe 10 minutes under heavy fire before the crystals overload," Rick replied. "But that's 10 minutes more than we had before." Murphy nodded and moved to where Lieutenant Amy Brooks was calibrating the new targeting systems. Zorathian Quantum. Computers had been integrated with the Liberty's weapons, creating a hybrid system that could predict enemy movements with incredible accuracy. "The new targeting array is working perfectly," Amy reported. "We can now hit targets at 3 times our previous range with 98% accuracy. The Zorathian quantum tracking will let us follow enemy ships even if they try to hide behind asteroids." Dr. Kate Morgan approached with a datapad full of readings. "Captain, the energy absorption modifications are working better than expected. We can now draw power directly from enemy weapons fire. The more they shoot at us, the stronger our shields become." "Outstanding work, everyone," Murphy said. He turned to the Zorathian engineer who had been leading their technical team. "Velnash, how are your ships coming along?" The tall alien's scales glowed with pride. "Captain Murphy, our vessels now carry modified versions of your kinetic weapons. They are not as powerful as your railguns, but they will be effective against Vraxx bioarmor." Murphy smiled. "Then we're as ready as we'll ever be. Let's get back to the bridge." On the command deck, Commander Zethara was studying tactical displays with navigator Lisa Carter. The two had spent hours learning each other's fighting techniques and developing new strategies that combined human aggression with Zorathian wisdom. "The enemy fleet has taken position around our planet," Zethara reported. "They are not attacking the surface yet. I believe they are waiting for us to surrender." "How long do we have?" Murphy asked. "Their war leader has given us 6 hours to surrender unconditionally," Communications Officer Dan Price said. "After that, they'll begin orbital bombardment of all population centers." Murphy looked at the display showing the massive Vraxx fleet. Even with all their improvements, the odds were still terrible. But he had made his choice, and he would stick with it. "All right, people," he announced to the bridge crew. "Here's the plan. We're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to make them lose an unfair one." He activated the ship-wide communication system so that everyone on all 3 ships could hear him. "The Vraxx think they have us beaten because they have more ships. They're wrong. They have more targets for us to shoot at." Murphy gestured to the tactical display. "We're going to use the asteroid field to our advantage. We'll hit them fast, hurt them badly, and disappear before they can respond. We'll make them chase us through a maze of rocks and debris where their numbers don't matter." "What about their flagship?" Zethara asked. "The Devourer is their command ship. If we could destroy it, the whole fleet would lose coordination," Amy finished. "But getting close to that ship will be nearly impossible. It's surrounded by layers of escorts." Murphy studied the enemy formation. The massive flagship sat in the center of the fleet like a spider in its web. It was easily 3 times the size of the Liberty and bristled with weapons. "We'll save the flagship for last," he decided. "First, we thin out their numbers, make them angry, make them make mistakes." Over the next several hours, the 3 allied ships prepared for battle. Human and Zorathian crew members worked together, sharing knowledge and techniques. The cultural barriers that had seemed so important before faded away in the face of their common purpose. Young Zorathian officer Kithani, Approach Dan Price at the communications station. Officer Price, I have been studying human battle communications. Your people use very different language during fights. Dan grinned. Yeah, we tend to get a bit colorful when people are shooting at us. Don't take it personally. I find it fascinating. Kethani said, your people express emotion so directly. It seems to help with coordination under stress. Meanwhile, Dr. Kate Morgan was briefing Zorathian medical personnel on human physiology. If any of our people get hurt, remember that we don't regenerate like you do. We'll need immediate medical attention. The Zorathian medic, whose name translated as healer of wounds, nodded carefully. We understand. We have prepared medical stations on our ships to treat human injuries. As the deadline approached, Murphy gathered his senior officers for a final briefing. Remember, we're not trying to be heroes, he said. We're trying to be smart. Hit hard, move fast, and don't give them a chance to use their numbers against us. Captain, Amy said quietly, what if this doesn't work? What if we can't stop them? Murphy looked around at the faces of his crew. Humans and Zorathians who had become comrades in just 3 days. Then we make sure they remember that someone stood up to them. We make sure they know that evil doesn't always win. The 6-hour deadline passed without any response from the Allied fleet. On the Vraxx flagship, war leader Gexth's patience finally ran out. Begin the bombardment, he ordered. Destroy their cities one by one until they surrender. The first wave of Vraxx ships moved toward the planet's surface, their weapons charging for the attack that would kill millions of innocent Zorathians. But as they approached the upper atmosphere, 3 small shapes detached themselves from a nearby asteroid. Contact! Shouted the Vraxx sensor operator. 3 ships approaching at high speed. Only 3? Gexth laughed. Destroy them! The nearest Vraxx ships turned to face the attackers, expecting an easy victory. Instead, they ran into a storm of kinetic rounds and quantum-enhanced energy beams. The hybrid weapons punched through bioarmor like it wasn't there. In minutes, 6 Vraxx ships were destroyed. The Allied fleet disappeared back into the asteroid field before the enemy could respond effectively. Impossible! Gexth roared. How are they so effective? War leader, his tactical officer reported. They appear to have combined their technologies. Their weapons are much more powerful than before. Then we will overwhelm them with numbers, Gexth decided. Send 50 ships into the asteroid field. Hunt them down. The 50 Vraxx vessels moved into the asteroid maze, confident in their superior numbers. But the asteroids worked against them. Their large ships had trouble maneuvering in the tight spaces, while the smaller Allied vessels darted between the rocks like fish through coral. The Liberty appeared from behind a large asteroid, fired a devastating barrage, and vanished again before the enemy could target them. The Zorathian ships used their superior knowledge of the local area to set ambushes and hit-and-run attacks. This is working better than I hoped, Murphy said, as they scored another series of hits. Their big ships can't maneuver in here. Captain, Lisa reported. We've destroyed 18 enemy vessels. But they're learning our tactics. They're spreading out more, trying to box us in. Time to change the game again, Murphy decided. Zethara, are your people ready for the next phase? Ready, Captain Murphy, came the reply from the Zorathian command ship. Then let's give them something new to worry about. The 3 Allied ships suddenly broke from the asteroid field and headed directly toward the main Vraxx fleet. It looked like a desperate suicide charge, and the enemy ships moved to intercept them. But as the Vraxx closed in, something unexpected happened. The asteroids behind the Allied ships began to move. Using Zorathian gravity manipulation technology, the 3 ships were pulling massive chunks of rock along with them like a deadly tail. "Incoming asteroids!" screamed the Vraxx sensor operators, but it was too late. The Liberty released its gravitational hold on a massive asteroid, sending the huge rock tumbling directly into a group of enemy ships. The impact destroyed 3 vessels instantly and damaged several others. The Zorathian ships followed suit, turning the asteroid field into a weapon. Soon, space around Kelanos was filled with flying rocks, all guided by quantum targeting systems toward enemy vessels. "Retreat!" ordered Gexeth. "Pull back to a safe distance!" But Murphy wasn't finished. "Now!" he called out. The 3 allied ships suddenly accelerated to maximum speed, using the confusion to punch through the enemy formation. Their target was clear, the massive flagship that commanded the Vraxx fleet. "They're heading for the Devourer," the Vraxx tactical officer. "Warned! Impossible!" Gexeth snarled. "3 small ships cannot threaten my flagship." But as the Liberty, followed by its 2 Zorathian allies, raced toward the massive biomechanical ship, war leader Gexeth began to realize that he had greatly underestimated his enemies. These weren't just 3 ships. They were 3 ships carrying the combined knowledge, courage, and determination of 2 entire species, and they were coming straight for him. 3 weeks after the battle at Kelanos, Captain Jake Murphy stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Orbital Station Alpha. Through the massive windows, he could see human and Zorathian ships working together to build what would become the first joint military base in the galaxy. The station was a marvel of combined engineering. Human metal frameworks supported Zorathian crystal technology, creating something stronger and more beautiful than either species could have built alone. Living crystal walls pulsed with soft light, while human computers processed data at incredible speeds. "The construction is ahead of schedule," reported Chief Engineer Rick Stone as he joined Murphy at the window. "The Zorathian growing techniques are amazing. They can literally grow new sections of the station in days instead of months." Murphy nodded, watching as a human transport ship docked next to a Zorathian vessel. The 2 crews worked together to unload supplies, their different languages mixing in a harmony that would have been impossible just weeks ago. "Any word from Earth?" Murphy asked. Rick's expression grew serious. "Admiral Chen's fleet arrived yesterday. She wants to meet with you and Commander Zethara as soon as possible. I think she's bringing new orders." Murphy sighed. He had been expecting this. Earth's government would want to know everything about the new alliance and the threat posed by the Vraxx Empire. They would also want to take control of the situation. "Where is Zethara now?" Murphy asked. "In the medical bay with Dr. Morgan," Rick replied. "They're working on some kind of biological compatibility project." Murphy made his way through the station's corridors, marveling at how quickly humans and Zorathians had learned to work together. The initial language barriers had been overcome with advanced translation devices, and cultural differences were being resolved through patience and understanding. In the medical bay, he found Dr. Kate Morgan and Commander Zethara studying biological samples under a microscope. The Zorathian scales were glowing with excitement. "Captain Murphy," Dr. Morgan called out when she saw him enter. "You need to see this. Zethara's people have developed medical techniques that could revolutionize human healthcare. They're cellular. Regeneration processes are incredible," Zethara added, her scales shifting to happy blue colors. "And your human immune systems are far more adaptable than we thought. We believe we can create treatments that will benefit both our species." That's wonderful, Murphy said. But we have more immediate concerns. Admiral Chen wants to meet with us. Zethara's scales darkened slightly. She had heard about the approaching Earth fleet and understood the implications. Your superiors wish to take command of the Alliance? Probably, Murphy admitted. But don't worry, we'll make sure they understand what we've built here. An hour. Later, Murphy and Zethara stood in the station's main conference room facing Admiral Sarah Chen, the commander of Earth's Third Fleet. The Admiral was a stern woman with gray hair and sharp eyes who had spent her entire career fighting pirates and protecting human colonies. Captain Murphy, Admiral Chen began without preamble, your actions here have created a significant diplomatic situation. Earth Command wants a full report on this alien alliance and the threat level of the Vraxx Empire. Yes, ma'am, Murphy replied formally. The Zorathians are peaceful people who were attacked without provocation. The Vraxx Empire appears to be a significant threat not just to them, but potentially to all peaceful species in this region of space. Admiral Chen studied Commander Zethara with curious eyes. Commander, what can you tell us about the Vraxx? Military capabilities? Zethara stepped forward gracefully. Admiral Chen, the Vraxx Empire has conquered many worlds. Their technology is biomechanical, very different from yours or ours. They are cruel and see other species only as slaves or resources to be harvested. How many ships do they have? Chen asked. We estimate thousands, possibly tens of thousands, Zethara replied. They control multiple star systems and have been expanding for centuries. Admiral Chen absorbed this information with the practiced calm of a career military officer. And what do they want with your world specifically? Quantum. Crystals, Murphy answered. The crystals on Kelanos are apparently rare and valuable for their technology. But Admiral, I don't think this is just about resources. The Vraxx seem to enjoy conquest for its own sake. Chen nodded slowly. Captain, Earth Command is concerned about humanity getting involved in an interstellar war. Your actions, while heroic, may have made Earth a target. With respect, Admiral, Murphy said, Earth was always going to be a target eventually. Better to face the threat with allies than to face it alone. Before Admiral Chen could respond, alarms began ringing throughout the station. A young human officer rushed into the conference room. Admiral Captain, the officer reported breathlessly, we're receiving multiple distress calls from the Kepler system. It's under attack by a large Vraxx fleet. Admiral Chen's expression hardened. How large? At least 200 ships, ma'am. The colonies are requesting immediate assistance. Murphy felt his stomach drop. Kepler was a human system with 3 colonized worlds and over 2 million people. If the Vraxx were attacking human colonies now, the war had just escalated dramatically. Admiral, Murphy said urgently, we have to respond. Those are our people. With what? Chen asked grimly. I have 12 ships. You have 1. The Zorathians have 2. Against 200 enemy vessels. We have something else, Zethara said quietly. We have the knowledge of how to defeat them. Admiral Chen looked between Murphy and the alien commander. Explain. The hybrid technology we developed, Murphy said, are combined weapons and shield systems. We've proven they work against Vraxx bioarmor. And we have captured Vraxx ships, Zethara added. We understand their weaknesses now. With your 12 ships equipped with our modifications, we might actually have a chance, Murphy finished. Admiral Chen was quiet for a long moment, weighing the risks and possibilities. Finally, she spoke. Captain Murphy, you're asking me to bet the lives of my crews on alien technology we've never tested. "Admiral," Zethara said respectfully, "your Captain Murphy bet his life and the lives of his crew on our alliance. He saved my people when he had no reason to trust us." "That's different," Chen replied. "He was one ship making his own decision. I'm responsible for thousands of personnel." Another alarm sounded, and the same officer returned. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Vraxx fleet attacking Kepler. They're demanding the surrender of all human colonies in the sector." The room fell silent. Everyone understood the implications. This wasn't just an attack on one system. It was the beginning of a full-scale invasion of human space. "How long before they reach the next system?" Chen asked. "At their current speed, 36 hours, the officer replied. Admiral Chen looked out the window at the joint construction project, then at Murphy and Zethara. "Show me everything you've learned about fighting the Vraxx. If we're going to do this, we need to do it right." Over the next several hours, human and Zorathian engineers worked frantically to retrofit Admiral Chen's fleet with hybrid technology. Quantum shield generators were installed on human ships while Zorathian vessels received human weapons systems. Dr. Morgan and her team developed rapid deployment medical kits that could treat both human and Zorathian injuries. Communications. Officer Dan Price worked with Zorathian specialists to create a unified command and control system. "This is incredible," Admiral Chen said as she watched the modifications being installed on her flagship. "In just a few weeks, you've created technology that surpasses anything Earth has developed. It's what happens when different species share knowledge instead of fighting each other," Murphy replied. As the combined fleet prepared to depart for Kepler, Murphy found himself thinking about the future. Win or lose, this battle would determine whether the human-Zorathian alliance would survive and grow or be destroyed before it could reach its full potential. "Captain," Zethara said as she approached him on the bridge of the Liberty, "whatever happens at Kepler, I want you to know that meeting your species has changed us forever." "Changed us how?" Murphy asked. "You have taught us that sometimes peace must be defended with strength," she replied. "And we have learned that we are not alone in believing that all life is precious." Murphy smiled. "Commander, I have a feeling this is just the beginning of what our peoples can accomplish together." As the fleet jumped into hyperspace toward the battle at Kepler, Murphy felt a mix of fear and hope. They were heading into their biggest fight yet, but they were no longer facing it alone. The combined human-Zorathian fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system to find a scene of devastation. The 3 human colonies were under heavy bombardment from a massive Vraxx armada that stretched across space like a dark cloud of death. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship, the USS Valiant, watching the tactical display with grim determination. 200 Vraxx ships were systematically destroying everything in the system: orbital stations, defensive platforms, and civilian transports trying to evacuate. "Status report," she ordered. "Kepler Prime is still holding, but barely," reported her tactical officer. "The orbital defenses are down to 30%. Kepler 2 has already fallen, and Kepler 3 is under direct assault." Captain Murphy's IE voice came through the communication system from the Liberty. "Admiral, we need to move fast. Every minute we wait, more people die." "Agreed," Chen replied. "But we need to be smart about this. 200 ships is still overwhelming odds, even with our new technology." Commander Zethara's image appeared on the main screen, transmitting from her command ship. "Admiral Chen, I have been analyzing the enemy formation. They are arranged for orbital bombardment, not for ship-to-ship combat. If we can force them to turn and fight us, we can disrupt their attack pattern," Murphy finished. Good thinking, Commander. Admiral Chen studied the enemy formation. The Vraxx ships were spread out in bombardment formation, focusing their attention on the planets below. They weren't expecting an attack from behind. All ships, she announced over the fleet communication system. We're going to hit them fast and hard. Target their command ships first, then spread out and cause as much chaos as possible. Our goal is to draw them away from the colonies. The 15-ship Allied fleet accelerated toward the massive enemy armada. It looked like a suicide charge, 15 ships against 200. But these 15 ships carried the combined knowledge and determination of two species that refused to surrender. Weapons range in 30 seconds, reported Lieutenant Amy Brooks from the Liberty's weapons station. Remember, Admiral Chen broadcast to all ships. Use the hybrid targeting systems. Let the Zorathian quantum computers guide your shots. Their technology can track targets through their own evasive maneuvers. The first salvo was devastating. Human railguns, enhanced with Zorathian quantum targeting, struck Vraxx ships with perfect accuracy. The kinetic rounds punched through bio-armor that had been designed to resist energy weapons, causing massive internal explosions. At the same time, Zorathian energy weapons, boosted by human power systems, cut through enemy hulls like hot knives through butter. The combination was more effective than either technology had been alone. Direct hits on 12 enemy vessels, Amy reported with satisfaction. They're definitely feeling that. The Vraxx fleet immediately began to react. Ships broke off from their bombardment missions to engage the attacking force. But their movement was uncoordinated. They had never faced an enemy that fought with such precision and ferocity. "This is War Leader Krikstar of the Vraxx 4th Assault Fleet," came a transmission from the enemy flagship. "Unknown vessels, you will surrender immediately or be destroyed." Admiral Chen opened a response channel. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. We don't surrender to butchers who attack innocent people." Earth? The Vraxx commander sounded confused. "You are the species that interfered at Kelanos. You should have stayed in your own territory." "This is our territory," Chen replied coldly, "and you're not welcome here." The battle erupted across the entire system as the Vraxx fleet turned to face the Allied force. The human and Zorathian ships used hit-and-run tactics, striking hard and then retreating before the enemy could respond effectively. Captain Murphy led a daring attack on the enemy's left flank, using the Liberty's speed and maneuverability to dart between larger Vraxx vessels. "Rick, I need maximum power to weapons," he called to the engine room. "You've got it, Captain," came Rick Stone's reply. "The Zorathian power cores are working perfectly with our systems." The Liberty fired a continuous stream of railgun rounds into a Vraxx cruiser, each shot guided by quantum targeting computers. The enemy ship tried to return fire, but its biomechanical weapons couldn't track the rapidly moving human vessel. Meanwhile, Commander Zethara was leading her two ships in a coordinated attack on the enemy's command structure. The Zorathian vessels, now armed with human explosive warheads, were proving devastatingly effective against Vraxx bio-armor. "The enemy is starting to adapt," Zethara reported over the communication system. "They are learning to counter our tactics." "Then we changed tactics again," Admiral Chen replied. "All ships form up for Pattern Delta." Pattern Delta was a formation they had practiced during the journey to Kepler, a complex maneuver that required perfect coordination between human and Zorathian vessels. The idea was to create a moving fortress that could concentrate firepower while protecting damaged ships. "Executing Pattern Delta," Murphy acknowledged, bringing the Liberty into position alongside the Valiant. The 15 Allied ships formed. a tight formation that moved through space like a single organism. Human ships provided the heavy firepower, while Zorathian vessels used their superior maneuverability to protect the formation's flanks. The Vraxx tried to surround them, but the Allied formation was too well coordinated. Every time enemy ships approached, they were met with devastating combined fire from multiple vessels. The hybrid weapons systems proved their worth again and again. "We're actually holding our own," Admiral Chen said with amazement as she watched the tactical display. "How many enemy ships have we destroyed?" 43 confirmed kills, her tactical officer reported, "and we've only lost 2 ships. Both were evacuated before destruction." But the Vraxx weren't finished. War leader Krixtar was beginning to understand that he was facing something entirely new, an alliance between species that fought with a coordination he had never seen before. "All ships," he broadcast to his fleet, "concentrate fire on the largest human vessel. Destroy their leader and the alliance will crumble." Over 50 Vraxx ships turned their weapons on Admiral Chen's flagship. Green plasma beams and biomissiles converged on the Valiant from all directions. "Shields failing," the tactical officer reported, as the ship shuddered under the massive assault. "Hull breaches on decks 7 and 12. But before the enemy fire could destroy the flagship, something unexpected happened. The other ships in the formation moved to protect it. Human and Zorathian vessels positioned themselves between the Valiant and the attacking Vraxx ships, absorbing damage meant for the command vessel. "All ships, pull back," Admiral Chen ordered. "Don't sacrifice yourselves for me." With respect, "Admiral," came Captain Murphy's voice, "that's exactly what we're going to do. You're the key to this alliance." "He is right," Commander Zethara added. "Your leadership unites our forces. We will protect you." The Allied ships formed a protective shell around the damaged flagship, continuing to fight even as their own vessels took heavy damage. It was a display of loyalty and cooperation that shocked the Vraxx, who had never seen different species work together with such unity. "This is impossible," War Leader Krixtar muttered as he watched his superior numbers being held at bay by the much smaller Allied force. "How can they fight so effectively together?" His answer came from an unexpected source. Deep in the Kepler system, the colonies that had been under bombardment were not just sitting passively. Human defense forces, inspired by the arrival of the Allied fleet, had begun their own counterattack. "War leader," his communications officer reported, "the surface defenses are fighting back. They have somehow enhanced their weapons with the same technology as the attacking fleet." Krixtar realized that he was no longer fighting just 15 ships. He was fighting an entire system that had been united by the alliance between humans and Zorathians. Every human ship, every orbital platform, every ground-based weapon was now enhanced with alien technology. "Sir," his tactical officer added, "we're receiving reports from across the sector. Other human colonies are sending distress calls, but they're also sending fleets to help each other. The alliance is spreading." For the first time in his career, War Leader Krixtar felt something he had never experienced before: doubt. The Vraxx Empire had always succeeded through overwhelming force and the fear it inspired. But these humans and their alien allies seemed to grow stronger when they were threatened. "All ships," he finally ordered, "prepare to withdraw." "War Leader?" his communications officer asked in surprise. "We still outnumber them." "Numbers don't matter if the enemy refuses to be defeated," Krixtar replied grimly. "We need to report back to the Empire. These species are unlike anything we have encountered before." As the Vraxx fleet began to retreat, Admiral Chen opened a channel to all Allied ships. This is Admiral Chen to all vessels. Outstanding work, everyone. We've shown the galaxy that the alliance between our species isn't just about friendship. It's about strength. Captain Murphy smiled as he watched the enemy ships disappear into hyperspace. Admiral, I think we've just started something that's going to change the entire galaxy. I hope you're right, Captain, Chen replied. Because something tells me the Vraxx aren't going to give up easily. 6 months after the victory at Kepler, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Captain Jake Murphy stood in the observation lounge of Starbase Unity, the massive joint facility that had become the headquarters of what was now called the Galactic Defense Alliance. Through the transparent walls, he could see ships from a dozen different species working together in perfect harmony. Human vessels flew alongside Zorathian crystal ships, while newer allies brought their own unique technologies to the growing fleet. Hard to believe it all started with one distress call, said a familiar voice behind him. Murphy turned to see Admiral Chen approaching, her uniform now bearing the insignia of the Alliance High Command. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we hadn't responded to Zethara's message. The Vraxx would probably control half the galaxy by now, Chen replied, joining him at the window. Instead, they're retreating on every front. It was true. Word of the human-Zorathian alliance had spread quickly through space, reaching species that had been living in fear of Vraxx expansion. One by one, other civilizations had asked to join the alliance, bringing their own technologies and knowledge to the fight. The Cathari, a bird-like species with incredible engineering skills, had contributed advanced shield technology. The Morphic Union, shapeshifters who specialized in infiltration, provided intelligence about Vraxx movements. Even the mysterious Void Walkers, energy beings from deep space, had offered their support. Captain Murphy, called a voice from the communication panel. Commander Zethara requests your presence in the main briefing room. Murphy made his way through the station's corridors, marveling at how different species had learned to live and work together. Human children played games with young Zorathians in the recreation areas. Cathari engineers taught human apprentices about quantum mechanics. Morphic traders shared meals with human merchants in the dining halls. The briefing room was filled with representatives from all the Alliance species. Commander Zethara, now promoted to Alliance Supreme Commander, stood at the head of the table. Her scales glowed with the confident blue of a leader who had found her purpose. Friends, she began, we have received important intelligence from our Morphic operatives inside Vraxx territory. The Empire is planning a massive counterattack. A holographic display showed a three-dimensional map of local space. Red markers indicated Vraxx-controlled systems, while blue markers showed Alliance territory. The red area was still larger, but it was shrinking steadily. How massive? Asked Admiral Chen Flux. The Morphic representative shifted his form to speak more clearly. Over 1,000 ships, Supreme Commander. They are calling it the Grand Armada, led by their most experienced war leader, Thexmore the Destroyer. Murphy felt a chill. He had heard of Thexmore, a Vraxx commander who had personally conquered over 50 worlds. Where are they planning to attack? Here, Zethara replied, pointing to the holographic display. Earth itself. They believe that if they can destroy humanity's homeworld, the Alliance will collapse. The room fell silent. Everyone understood the implications. Earth was more than just another human world. It had become a symbol of the Alliance's ideals. Its destruction would be a devastating blow to morale across all member species. How long do we have? Murphy asked. Intelligence suggests they will arrive in 3 weeks, Flux replied. But Captain Murphy, there is something else. Our operatives report that the Vraxx have been developing new bioweapons specifically designed to counter our hybrid technologies. Dr. Kate Morgan, now the Alliance's chief medical officer, looked up from her datapad. What kind of bioweapons? Organisms that can eat through metal and disrupt quantum fields, Flux explained. They learned from their defeats and adapted. Admiral Dai. Chen studied the tactical display. Do we have enough ships to defend Earth? The entire Alliance fleet numbers 400 vessels, Zethara replied. Against their 1,000 it will be difficult. But not impossible, Murphy said firmly. We've beaten impossible odds before. This is different, Captain, warned Veltar, now serving as Alliance intelligence chief. Thexmore is not like the other Vraxx commanders we have faced. He learns from every battle, adapts to every strategy. He has never lost a major engagement. Murphy smiled grimly. Then it's time he learned what it feels like. Over the next 3 weeks, the Alliance mobilized everything they had. Ships from across known space converged on the Sol system. Earth's orbital defenses were reinforced with technology from a dozen species. The asteroid belt was turned into a massive minefield using Cathari quantum explosives. But the Alliance's greatest weapon wasn't technology, it was unity. Species that had been suspicious of each other for centuries now worked as one. The Voidwalkers shared their knowledge of space-time manipulation. The Cathari taught others how to build ships that could repair themselves. The Morphics provided intelligence that let the Alliance predict enemy movements. This is incredible, Dr. Morgan said as she watched the preparations. Every species is contributing something unique. Together, we're creating capabilities that none of us could achieve alone. Captain Murphy was aboard the USS Liberty, now serving as the flagship of Earth's defense fleet. The ship had been upgraded again with the latest Alliance technology. Zorathian quantum computers worked alongside Cathari battle systems. Morphic adaptive armor protected the hull, while Voidwalker energy cores powered weapons that could tear holes in space itself. Captain, reported Communications Officer Dan Price, we're receiving a transmission from the edge of the system. It's the Vraxx Grand Armada. The main screen activated, showing the terrifying visage of war leader Thexmore. Unlike other Vraxx commanders, this one showed no emotion, just cold, calculating intelligence. I am Thexmore the Destroyer, the image said. I come to end your pathetic alliance and claim Earth for the Empire. Surrender now, and I will allow some of your species to live as slaves. Murphy stepped forward. This is Captain Jake Murphy of the Galactic Defense Alliance. We have a different offer for you, Thexmore. Leave our space now, and we'll let you retreat with your ships intact. Thexmore's mandibles clicked with what might have been amusement. Bold words from a species that has existed for mere moments. Compared to the Empire. I have studied your tactics, human. I know how you fight. You will not surprise me as you surprised the others. We'll see about that, Murphy replied. The transmission ended, and space around Earth erupted into the largest battle in galactic history. Over 1,000 Vraxx ships faced 400 Alliance vessels in a fight that would determine the future of countless worlds. But this wasn't like previous battles. The Alliance had learned too. Instead of meeting the enemy head-on, they used the entire solar system as a battlefield. Ships emerged from behind planets and moons. The asteroid belt came alive with hidden weapons platforms. Even Earth's own moon had been turned into a massive fortress. They're not falling for our usual tactics, Admiral Chen reported from the command center on Luna. Thexmore is keeping his ships in tight formation, refusing to be drawn into our traps. Then we give him something he can't ignore, Murphy replied. He opened a channel to all Alliance ships. All vessels, this is Captain Murphy. Execute Operation Unity. Across the solar system, Alliance ships began to move in perfect coordination. Every species contributed to a massive, complex maneuver that had never been attempted before. Human ships provided covering fire while Zorathian vessels used gravity manipulation to alter the battlefield itself. Cathari ships created quantum corridors that allowed instant movement across vast distances. Morphic vessels changed their shapes to confuse enemy targeting systems. The result was beautiful and terrifying. The Alliance fleet moved like a single living organism, each ship playing its part in a grand strategy that utilized the unique abilities of every member species. Impossible, Thexmore muttered as he watched his carefully planned attack falter. How can so many different species coordinate so perfectly? His answer came when the Alliance's true secret weapon revealed itself. In the depths of space, a massive structure began to emerge. A space station built with technology from every member species. It was the product of 6 months of cooperation. A fortress that incorporated the best ideas from a dozen civilizations. "This is Starbase Unity to all Vraxx vessels," came Commander Zethara's voice. "You are hereby ordered to leave Alliance space immediately." The station's weapons opened fire, and space lit up with energies that had never been seen before. Voidwalker quantum beams tore through Vraxx bio-armor. Cathari gravity weapons crushed enemy ships. Human kinetic rounds, enhanced with Zorathian targeting, struck with perfect precision. But the true power of Unity wasn't its weapons. It was what it represented. For the first time in galactic history, different species had voluntarily joined together as equals, sharing knowledge and resources to protect each other. The sight of Unity broke something in the Vraxx fleet. These were creatures who understood only conquest and domination. The idea that species could work together willingly was foreign to them, and it shook their confidence. "War leader," his tactical officer reported, "we're losing ships faster than we can replace them. The Alliance coordination is perfect. They're predicting our every move." Thexmore stared at the Alliance fleet with something approaching respect. "Signal the retreat," he ordered.